Angel-6942 calling in. Angel-6942 calling in. Angel-6942 calling in. The date in human years is a Friday, the 10th of September 2021. And I feel that I'm disappearing. I'm the human host. I don't know what's happening with the human host at the moment. It's like I'm cut off from him. I'm connected in the evenings and when the host is at home. But as soon as he leaves, I black out. And it's nothing. And I don't come to consciousness until he gets back. And he goes out in the late afternoon and comes back late at night. And I don't know what he's doing because he resigned from his job. Though he seems to be able to pay his rent and his bills, and there's plenty of food and drink around. So money doesn't seem to be a problem. He's even managed to get something called a tablet, which is like a big version of this thing I'm talking to you on. So I'm able to look at what's happening when he's awake, and I'm awake at the same time in the evenings. But I'm not sure I will be with you much longer. And I don't know where I'll go. Anyway, the big news this week again is Afghanistan. The Taliban have finally taken over the whole of the country. Though I don't think they will find it the same Afghanistan they left behind 20 years ago when they were thrown out by the Western or invading forces, depending on how you think. I mean, it's true that there have been rumours and stories of Taliban soldiers approaching unaccompanied women on the street and asking them where their husband was or their escort was, and if they couldn't produce one, they were sent back home to bring a male with them to prove that they were being escorted. But a lot of women also had a massive demonstration on Tuesday, and they were sort of demanding the removal of the Taliban and equal rights and women's rights and equality. And they also blamed another country called Pakistan for sort of supporting the Taliban and interfering in Afghanistan. Though Pakistan has denied all this, and there have been pictures of very angry women shouting from cars, and also men had joined them as well, which is good. And these people were demanding freedom for Afghanistan, or Afghanistan to be free. So for them, freedom is a big thing. Freedom. Freedom. Allowed to be free.
You want freedom, and recognize the truth. Sad angel.
Anyway, the soldiers, the Taliban soldiers, didn't seem very happy about this, so they broke up the demonstrations. by shooting into the air, and a lot of people were frightened and ran away and sort of dispersed. Though shooting in the air has been made illegal by the Taliban, because when they took over, a lot of them in celebration shot in the air, and a few people were accidentally killed. So they said it was legal, but they still carried on. Sorry. And also, to distract from the demonstration, the Taliban leaders announced the makeup of their new government at the same time. So a lot of press, or official press, sort of concentrated on that, though some of the smaller press and independent people managed to report on the demonstration. And when they announced the government, they did like a press conference, so I suppose they're trying to modernise. And they announced the government, and it was all men, and a lot of people that have been involved or been accused of terrorism in the past. And although the Taliban said they changed and they were going to allow women in the government, there wasn't any women there. And when questioned about it, they said, of course, there will be no women in the top table, but there will be women in the government. And you hope that the women aren't just there to sort of clean and cook and just say yes, and they'll have something real to do. But you get the feeling it might not. Anyway, also vaccine, the COVID vaccine here the vaccination has been increasing. And Scotland has been talking about having vaccine passports. And they've been talking about that in England as well. Though a lot of people are not happy about this, and a lot of people actually still don't believe that COVID is a real thing. They think it's either a big hoax or has been over-exaggerated. And a lot of those supporters have been sort of putting posters up saying that, I think the poster specifically was, masks don't work on transport systems like the tube and on trains. But they've been finding sort of razor blades behind the posters when they tried to take it down. And in fact, a lady in Cardiff was actually injured when she tried to take down one of those posters. So that's not good. Though, I mean, the anti-vaxxers believe that the vaccine has dangerous chemicals in it, and it causes diseases like autism or infertility and other things like that. Though it does seem that by not taking the vaccine, it sort of causes fanaticism and disregard of the truth and criminal activities. And also, it's been happening for weeks, but it's sort of been more pronounced this week that there's been empty shelves in the shops because people are finding it hard to fill them. So there have been empty shelves or shelves with not much in them. And that's because, or there's two issues. One is because the stock isn't coming because they can't make it fast enough. Because of COVID, a lot of workers everywhere can't get access to their work. So a lot of raw materials haven't been gained, so they can't make the stuff. So there was an example of a man who used to get regular imports from East Asia, and now they're taking much longer because East Asia can't send the stuff, or only sending half of it, and when it does come, it's a very, very long time for it to come. And the other issue is that there's been a lack of drivers, and this is because that drivers usually leave the jobs, also because they were pinged, they couldn't work, so they had to self-isolate. But also a lot of drivers have left the job, which is natural, but then they would have loads of drivers to replace them. But because of COVID, there hasn't been any driver training, so there haven't been the drivers to replace them as yet. So, and it's all big catch-up, and a lot of people are asking for the government to relax the visa rules to allow drivers from other countries to take up the jobs, and especially Europe, because a lot of people from Europe could do driver jobs because there was an agreement before the UK left Europe. Though I would think that a lot of the people that are worried about climate change would be very, very happy because of the situation. One, they're using less resources because people couldn't go out to get the stuff to make. And two, because there was less carbon emissions. And, so people couldn't transport stuff. There wouldn't be big trucks full of goods and there wouldn't be planes flying over goods. And you would think that people like Excel would make the most of something like this, like, offer their services to sort of transport goods, like bicycle, because they said bicycle is apparently very good, or in a sort of empty bicycle lanes, so they could use their bicycles to deliver stuff like big goods, and they would probably need very, very big backpacks and teams of them with like stretchers and things like that. But that's a good idea. Though I suppose all the extra CO2 from them breathing very hard might not help. But I suppose it's better than sort of those petrol things. It's funny they didn't suggest it when they were demonstrating last week. Anyway, and also the future king is in trouble this week. And the future king, I think, is called Charles. There'll be king, if he becomes king, it'll be King Charles the Third, I think. And King Charles II wasn't very lucky. Well, he was sort of lucky, because but he died without any children. And King Charles I wasn't lucky at all. But anyway, no, because there's been a whole issue of, I think they call it cash for honours, because his valet, which is a servant of his or an employee of his, and I think a valet does something with cars, cleans them or something. Anyway, the valet has been accused of taking money from billionaires and saying that he could get them citizenship or visa and a knighthood, and apparently this is illegal. And I'm not quite sure how possible for a car cleaner, unless Charles was involved, but Charles says he's not involved. So, but it does seem very strange, because apparently the royalty have been doing this for years and years, centuries and centuries, sort of like taking money to give honours. I mean, that's why barons were barons, and that's why people were honoured, and so that the king could get money, because apparently in the old days, despite being the king, they were quite poor, and a lot of the lords had the money, and that's how they sort of got control or influence, I think they call it. I mean, for example, one of the old kings called Henry VII, or Henry V, well, he wouldn't let his son Henry, weren't very imaginative in the naming of children, were they? Henry VIII or Henry V, marry his ex-sister-in-law, or his widowed sister-in-law, because the widowed sister-in-law was Catherine, because Catherine's parents didn't stump up enough money, and it wasn't until they stumped up enough money that Catherine was allowed to marry Henry V. Now, also Henry V had another wife called Anne, but she got very excited and lost her head about things. But anyway, Anne's family came out of nowhere. So basically, when Anne got involved with Henry V, suddenly her family rose to power and got lots of money and got lots of position and got, royal honours and things like that. So I presume that was a bit like cash for honours, except she wasn't offering cash. Anyway, I'll get back to you next week. I hate to look at my Facebook. I care not what you share. I give a miss to narcissists who publicly declare they seemed enthralled with details so like what they had for tea.